Alright, so let's start making this form look a lot better than it does. And I'll probably fast forward through some of this, but it's going to be at a rate you can maybe copy along. If not, feel free to chime in and let me know. I just kind of feel like this stuff, as far as the front end, is a little mundane. It's kind of just copying and pasting some stuff, but not actually doing so. So I'm going to actually type through it just so you can see what's going on when I do it. So we have our form already in a partial. It looks like this to start with, which is bare bones, but we need to add quite a bit of styling and classes to work with BOMA, and all around just more stuff to make this thing look cooler. So I'll start right now. And before I do that, actually, one main thing I want to not forget is to set our form to be multi-part true, and that's because we're passing in a file field. So that will be what we use carrier wave for in the end. And we'll just pass multi-part true, just like that. And then the rest is pretty much history. So let's get going. All right, so for this select field, I actually want to select from what we added in our models earlier. So the job type constant that I created is going to come in handy here. So we can actually define that with simple form, calling collection, and then accessing our model with that, and then job type, since that's what we called it. It should go fetch that and get that data to propagate that select field. So that's a pretty cool thing. And then we can just declare a prompt, which is like what the user should do. And we'll just say select a job type. All right, so I'll continue on. Okay, so the next part of our view is going to hook into the carrier wave gem we've been using in the past few series. And with BOMA, we're going to actually declare a specific field type for this. It's going to be a file field type, but we're going to actually make it kind of look nice, as well as house a preview image, which I've also done in this series as well, using some JavaScript, of which I'll probably just copy and paste because it's on, I don't know, like 3 of these series, so I don't really need to go through it, I think. But more or less it hooks into a reader in the browser that can parse the image as like base64 and return it in the browser instantly as you actually upload it. Let's see, I'm just going to get this HTML out and then we'll get going. So let's leave that alone. Logo image, and this is going to be, yeah, the logo image of the company. So when they upload a job, it's easier to identify. We'll do f.input, and this is going to be avatar since that's what we called it. And then as file, and this is native to simple form, so we can render it as a file field. And we'll say it's not required. HTML class is going to be file input, and then job avatar. We need a custom class here so we can hook into it with JavaScript. So we'll do that in a second. And then wrapper false. Then we need some nice looking icons, of course. And then below this columns, this should be columns, sorry about that. We have a column here, and that's where that ends there. We need one more column. I'm putting these side by side, which you'll see in a second, and then we're inserting this output element with a class or an ID of list. And then we have two divs, and then horizontal rule. And then below that, I'm going to render a partial called payment. I'm not going to add anything yet, but we will once we get into the Stripe stuff. So need to create that file first to do the render, but it won't actually render anything because there's nothing there. So let's just get it in there for now. And then we have our button, or submit button finally, which is going to be a class button, in quotes, is primary, is large, and then is rounded, and then I use some helper class to do some margin vertically. And that should do it for our actual form view. So hopefully we can see it looking better now. Looks like something's up here that isn't quite right. It might have mistyped it. Go back and see what's going on. In fact, just to clarify, I'll go to, I think, my sample project and save some time and just copy that. So you'll see those parameters we set, those constants we set in our model now there. So awesome. One last thing to do is to configure our views to use fancier titles or fancier looking titles. And we can do that just in the new and edit views. So here I'll actually get rid of the linked and add a class. I wonder if I added more than this. Yeah, I did actually. So I'm just gonna actually, sorry guys, do the same thing because this stuff is pretty straightforward. Just trying to make it look better, but I'll explain it. So there's a section class which gives it some space, and the containing class kind of makes it a set width so the content doesn't go straight to the browser edge. Then we set a columns, basically a flexbox container, and then set its width to 80% and then offset it to 2% or whatever that is. And then that kind of just centers it, but makes it a smaller containing element just because I wanted wider margins. And then we set our title in this right. So then we rendered that form that we were doing, which is everything we typed in that longer span of time that you probably just watched. So we need to do the same thing for the edit. So let me go to get that. It's honestly the exact same thing. So let's just copy this, paste it, and then we'll just say editing job. And what's cool about partials here is you can actually pass in a local variable to it. So that's how we're able to reuse it on both the edit and new views. So you can reuse that code instead of having to create a completely new form, which is awesome. It's very dry, which is don't repeat yourself approach. So that done, we should have a better looking form after that. Awesome. Okay, so now you can actually input a job and create it. At this point, it should work. But I'm going to go ahead and integrate our Stripe stuff next, just so we can do it all at once and make it all work and look good. So I will see you in the very next video to do that.